All right, so question of the day time as we end this Friday and we move into the weekend, which will see the EFF celebrating its 6th birthday. Now, the question we're asking, what do you think the party has made or impact the party has made on the country's political landscape since its formation? A very important question and something that I know is going to get some great responses from our viewers. At Morning Live, SABC, hashtag Morning Live. So EFF, 6 years? Feels like they've been around for longer, doesn't it?
It does, but at the same time, it feels like it was just yesterday that they came onto the scene, you know?
Yeah,
time flies.
I mean, you cannot deny that they've had a major impact on the landscape, but what is that impact? And that's what we would love to hear from you. So it'll be good to hear you and see your tweets, so we're looking forward to them.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at the news diary. Some of the stories we'll be tracking today. The Commission of Inquiry into State Capture will continue hearing testimony about the failed Estina dairy farm project. Freeda businessman Willie Basson appears before the Commission this morning again.
All right. The next story, Auditor General Kimi Makwetu is expected to appear before the Alexandra Inquiry to give feedback on the audit of the township's renewal project.
And then 42 taxi drivers are expected to appear in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court for public violence following their arrest during a standoff between taxi and bus operators earlier this week.
And as you heard in the news, a memorial service for late South African musical icon Johnny Clegg will be held in Johannesburg today. Clegg was laid to rest in a private funeral last week.
So those are some of the stories on our SABC News Diary. Let's take a look now at some of the top trending topics, starting there with hashtag Presidential Health Compact. And that was signed yesterday at the George Mukhari Hospital in the capital. And this, of course, another step towards assisting in the rollout of NHI. 9 pillars that were announced that, you know, there will be focus on. And it seems as though we are moving quite nicely towards that universal healthcare compact with the nation.
So I've got just a snippet of the pillars. So just to give you an idea of what these pillars are. One is augment health resources or human resources for health. Pillar 2, ensure improved access to essential medicines, vaccines and medical products. 3, execute the infrastructure. Plan to ensure adequate, appropriately distributed and well-maintained facilities. Engage the private sector, that's Pillar 4, in improving the access coverage. Pillar 5, improve the quality, safety and quantity of health services. Pillar 6, improve the efficiency of public sector financial management systems. Pillar 7, strengthen the governance and leadership to improve oversight and accountability. 8, engage and empower the community to ensure adequate and appropriate community-based care. And finally, Pillar 9, develop an information system that will guide the health system policy, strategies and investments. So that's what's been signed in Presidential Health Compact, and now we wait and see and hope that a lot will improve with regard to the health sector.
Yeah, we certainly do, because I think what's worrying is that some of those things one would assume would
in
be
existence.
a given or
Absolutely.
are already in existence. But so that is the Presidential Health Compact signed yesterday. And then hashtag Johan Rupert.
Well, Johan Rupert's been trending for quite some time, but I think the big one is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this has to do with the book that's been written about him as well, and threats saying that he is very, very much so afraid of a Didi Mabuza presidency, and we're heading in this direction. And he is wanting, if possibly, to run away and immigrate and get out of the country, as his kids have done so.
It's an interesting thing, and this book by investigative journalist Peter de Toy, outlining some of these utterances by Johan Rupert. And interestingly, he says he's lost faith, as you point out, in the ANC. So he says he was hopeful when Ramaphosa became president, but he seems to have lost faith in the party and where it's headed, and clearly not happy that there is a prospect even of a Didi Mabuza presidency. But also he also rubbish claims that he single-handedly controls the South African economy, and he actually went on to say that people should be thanking him, you know, because he pays his taxes, employs people in this country, etc., etc. And basically, we should be thanking him as opposed to, you know, using profanity against him.
I know, and he talks to the fact that he, you know, people suspect or say that he has a very close relationship with the president, and he says, in fact, he hasn't got contact with the president, and if he did, he would give him advice. And that he also, when it comes to manipulating the currency, this I found interesting. He said, if I wanted to, I could. But brokers would phone me and say, you know, can we, you know, short the rand and do things like that? And he says, no, I won't. So, you know, if he wanted to, he could, but he doesn't. So, but yeah, he spoke quite candidly in this particular book.
And just perhaps finally, he says, and I quote, "I think we'll be at the IMF in a year's time.
Yes.
We'll either have an Arab Spring type event, or Ramaphosa must restructure everything."
Well, these are the words of Johan Rupert, and this is all coming out of that, remind me of the name. You see,
Peter du Toit.
And the name of the book is?
Oh, well, I'm not saying the name of the book per se.
The book, it's just, you know, I flew from Cape Town yesterday, you know, it was so funny. Probably about 6 people just around me were reading the book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the book.
We need to get the book. We need to get the book.
But you know what was so funny? One person shouted at another person, "I don't read that propaganda." And another person says, "You leave me alone." This is
on the plane.
This was as we were lining up to go on the plane. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this book. Okay, so I think, yeah. Anyway, that's the Johan Rupert part. Penny Sparrow. We all know who Penny Sparrow is. And yesterday, the news came out that she had passed away and she died of lung cancer. That's what the reports were saying. And then, of course, everybody speaking to her. And Penny Sparrow, if you'll remember, took to Facebook and was being just
about, you know, the beach in Durban.
Unapologetically racist, and this of course went to court. This opened up a massive can of worms, and Penny Sparrow's name unfortunately will never leave the lips of South Africans. Even if you don't know who she is, you know what she stood for, and that's the problem, you know. And that, I suppose, opened up a very sensitive discussion amongst South Africans, but perhaps a necessary one, to talk about racism in all spheres of South Africa. And it'll be a conversation for many generations to come, but this name will always be associated with it. So yeah, Penny Sparrow, and everyone having their say. What do we speak about Penny Sparrow now? Is it good or bad? But I think that the narrative hasn't been very good. Not at all.
Yeah, well,
it is what it is. Yeah. And then finally, the question we're asking: EFF turned 6.
They are, and they are celebrating in Mpumalanga at the Kanyamazane Stadium this weekend. So they've been there all week in the lead up, you know, drumming up support, and of course doing what political parties do at times like these, going out into communities, etc. So yeah. And that's our question of the day.
It is, and there's already some lovely comments coming through. I'll just leave you with one as we go to weather, basically saying, you know, what impact has the EFF had on our political landscape? And Kwanda saying, well, for one thing, there's less sleeping in Parliament. And that's a fact. That's a fact.
They've got rid of the sleepers.
Definitely no time to sleep
yet.
in Parliament.
Not entirely yet. There are still a few sleepers here.
Okay. All right. There you go. That wraps up the trending section here on the program, as well as your stories of the day and question of the day.